toy fans. Today I'm reviewing a really awesome playset. This is from the original Playmates World of Springfield line, and this was a Toys R Us exclusive from 2001 under the Treehouse of Horror subline. This is one of the most favorite sets that I've recently purchased, and I've just been adding to my collection now, so I'm only 17 years late as of when this was recorded in 2018. But I gotta say, I love this overall design. The figures are great, the sculpt detail, the paint detail. It's amazing, and I wish I could get figures and toys like this today. You just don't find big play sets with interactive audio and these bright, wonderful, friendly colors anymore. So I'm really excited to show you this. And first off, I'd like to really emphasize these great alien figures. The scale, admittedly, isn't perfect because in the series they're almost twice as big, but for a toy it'd be kind of ridiculous to try to fit true to scale Kang and Kodos. The characters, as you know from the series, are basically identical, and it's really cool that Playmates didn't cop out and replicate just the same figure twice. They actually did differentiate the face sculpt and as well as the tentacles that are coming off the bases. They aren't articulated, and we know that the World of Springfield line was never super articulated. I'm going to pop Kang off his base, and there's really no official naming. So you can see there that triggered Homer, one of his voice phrases. But this is a really amazing figure. You can see up close here. The clear plastic is a hard plastic, but luckily it doesn't obscure seeing this amazing sculpt. You can't remove this unless you want to break it. The tips, obviously for safety, are a more flexible kind of rubberized plastic. Hopefully this won't yellow too much over time. I think these kind of rubberized clear plastic elements always are at risk. And the tentacles are, of course, they're stiff plastic, so there's not any posability. It'd be really cool if these were somehow bendable, but I get why, you know, at this price point with 3 figures in one set, you're not going to necessarily have that. And on the bottom, of course, you have the infamous Intellitronic chip or pin interface, which is the bane of these playsets because they help activate the audio chips, but they're almost impossible to get to line up reliably every time. You can see some great paint. It's a little bit sloppy in some of the edges, but you know, again, this is 2001, and the manufacturing quality is still generally pretty good. You can see mine has a little bit of this paint slop that got up on the clear plastic, but for a mass market toy, I really can't complain. So putting this guy aside, let's go ahead and grab Homer. So here we have Homer. Again, this is a pretty standard Homer, meaning it's pretty much just like the regular release, but some slight differences. I love his facial expression. It doesn't really exactly fit this line. He should really be a little bit more worried or concerned, especially when you match it up to the audio phrases in the base, but I'm not going to complain. His hands are stuck in this posed sculpt, which doesn't really work in the sense that there's nothing for him of significance to hold, but that's all right. You get the basic articulation. You know how limited these Simpsons figures were. You just had basic arms and neck pivot, and then sometimes the bases, here we go, it's just a little, it's so new that this was a little stiff, but you can swivel at the waist, and that's it. And of course there's the little chips again with the shoes that are a little bit off. They're a different color. They're this dark green, which wasn't standard model. And that's Homer. So he's a lot of fun. Great sculpt. I feel pretty accurate and not much to complain about. I mean, there's a little bit of little specks of paint that aren't actually supposed to be there on the head and then around his mouth, but otherwise I'm pretty happy with him. So let's look at the last figure, Kodos. So here we have the last figure, which is Kodos. You could see he has a different sculpt from Kang, from the mouth. So I really, again, want to give Playmates credit for bothering to do that. They really could have copped out and not done the completely different sculpt between the two of them, but they did. And the tentacles are different. You can see the pattern. Neither of them are bendable or posable, of course. The one point of articulation that I didn't mention before is you can swivel them on their tentacle base, but that's it, and that's nice, and it allows you to just do a minor bit of posing when they're on the display. So again, pretty good paint details. The mouth gets a little sloppy with some of the edges, but generally pretty good. There's a little bit off here on the blue on the button on his collar. but again, I can't complain given the mass market nature of these toys back in the day in 2001, and the price point was pretty amazing for getting 3 figures in one set. So the last thing we can take a look at is the playset background itself. All right, so the last element obviously is the big background. And I gotta say, this is an amazing piece of work. You have the really colorful pinks and purples, which really pop when you're looking at this playset. And it's pretty basic. These playsets were never super involved. There are no moving parts in this one. But the sculpt detail, again, for this price point is awesome. They bothered to texturize the base, has a little bit of that kind of metal grating look to it. And these panels in the background, which you attach, are nicely detailed. There's a different pink paint color applied and lots of raised sculpt elements, so that's really nice. And this control panel is awesome. Kind of looks like an arcade game, but it has these stickers which are vibrant, fairly nicely applied. There's a little bit of bubbling, but it's not too bad. And again, great sculpted detail on these elements on the side and the base. This little joystick doesn't really move, but it's again a lot of fun. So you can see the different ports to connect the audio chips. And the back, nothing particularly special, although it's interesting that there is a two-tone, so they did bother to give this a little bit of paint on the back and the base. You can see the speakers facing down, but it's actually pretty loud, and we'll demo those audio features in a minute. All right, so I've saved you the trouble of hassling with getting the figures back onto the playset. If you know any of these World of Springfield playset quirks, it's that they tend to be really tough to get the figures to line up and match and then activate the right audio clips. Probably the hardest part was getting the 2 aliens on their base. It's really hard to see where they line up. You have to really fuss with it. The one thing I will say though, on this playset at least, and on my copy that I have, the pegs underneath where they clip in on the base are actually really tight, and once you get them in, they stay on really well. I have other play sets, which I'll review in the future, where it's almost impossible to get the figures to line up and clip in correctly, and you have to hold them down to get the voice chips to activate. But this one, once you get them in, again, it's a little tricky. They stay on, and then they stay consistently accurate with the audio. So what I'm gonna do now is just play some of the audio clips, and you can get a sense for what the phrases are. So on the right, there's a button on the back here.
All earthlings eat. This is a mission of conquest. This is now right for the plucking.
And then you've got Homer.
I suppose you want to probe me. Let's get some applesauce out here. Don't eat me. I have a wife and kids. Eat them.
It's interesting to hear how the voice modulates quite a bit through the different clips on that episode. These are accurate clips. They are the real voice actors. And then on the left, we have another button.
Ah! He's got a board with a nail in it. Your superior intellect is no match for our puny weapons. Ah! He's got a board with a nail in it.
So just 2 clips on the left. So as you can tell, the phrases are really clear, really loud. I really appreciate that they aren't muffled, and you can tell they're the original clips from the series. No fill-in voice actors trying to mimic the original voice. So I think that's great. The last thing that I want to cover, of course, are the 2 accessories that are included. Now, it's a little light in accessories, but that often was the thing they sacrificed when they were doing the playset, so the big accessory was the playset itself. But you have the infamous book right here, which was How to Cook for 40 Humans, which is hilarious if you've seen that, how they kept uncovering different pieces of the cover. There's a sticker to represent this, and it is peeling. I think that's just the age of this. The glue is beginning to delaminate. The sculpt of the book itself is awesome. It's a little bit of a shame there wasn't anything on the reverse on the inside here, but that's understandable. They would just require more stickers, and they'd probably be peeling off anyway. But what's amazing is they even have little pages sculpted on the edges here. The paint is pretty clean. Again, I'm really happy with this accessory. I think it's a great episode-specific accessory as well. The only challenge is it doesn't really get held properly by anyone within their hands, because there's not really a good way to grip it. But it's fun. You can just sort of place it in the background or in the front, and it stands up by itself, so that really compensates. And the only other accessory for this set was this fun little probe wand. I'm not sure exactly what it was doing in the episode. It's been a while since I've seen it, but it's a nice little piece. It's actually got a lot of sculpt detail. I mean, it's amazing. You can see there's a little red button toggle switch that's been painted. There's even some really nice paint. There's 3 colors here. The silver, or actually 4, I guess. The silver, the black, the red, and this lime green. It all looks amazing. And it's again, probably for safety, it's a kind of a bendy plastic, rubber plastic, but Homer can hold it. The aliens can't hold anything. I guess maybe you could kind of place it underneath, but that's about it. I don't really know if it's accurate for Homer to be holding it, but it's still pretty hilarious, and it's a great little accessory. And then for all of you that care about the box artwork, I just thought I would show the back. I've already taken the playset out, so there's not as much to see on the front, but you can tell they've done some care with the artwork. You've got the unique Kangen Kodos illustration here, a nice photo of the playset in use. You have all the different interactive environments that were available at this point in time, and then all the different characters that you could buy. There's so many. But again, I really love the artwork on these playsets for the packaging because they're so bright and colorful, just like the TV series, and they're really eye-catching. I mean, you cannot not stop and look at these when you see them in a store, which I happen to be lucky to find them. So in summary, I think this is a great set. It's one of the first sets I got to start my collecting of the Simpsons line, and I'm really happy. It's really addictive because you start with this one and you just love everything about it, with the paint, the colors, the sculpt, and the characters and the voice. It's all amazing how it comes together. And I'm really glad I got this set, even though I paid a little bit more than they would have originally been for retail. It was still definitely worth it. And I highly recommend it if you want to start collecting, that you pick up this set. All right, until the next review, I hope you've enjoyed this close-up look at the Treehouse of Horror set exclusive from Toys R Us from the Playmates World of Springfield line. And stay tuned for the future reviews that I'm going to bring on all sorts of different Simpsons playsets.